Welcome to my channel, where we discuss everything and all things politics, economy, and development in Nigeria and around the world. In this video, we're going to talk about a data being circulated by the cable news containing alleged contributions of various states in Nigeria and the receipt they got or what they received from the federal government on value-added tax. Already some people are using it to raise shoulder that my zone is better than your zone. My zone contributes better than your zone. Your zone is a parasite and all that. So we have to put it in proper perspective. First of all, before I kickstart, this data is a reflection of a country that is unjust, with a federal system that is unjust. And when you have such an unjust system, it is going to create inequality. That should be very clear. So we're going to show you the inequality created by the Nigerian state that made the VAT record to be what it is. And then we have to look at the politics in it. All this will go together in this analysis. But first of all, let us clarify that value-added tax is a consumption tax. It's a consumption tax. Therefore, there are factors that affect it. Two major factors that affect value-added tax: population and then purchasing power. That is why you could see that Lagos consume more. Lagos consume more than Kano, even when Kano population is likely to be more than Lagos. Okay? Lagos consume more. Why? Because Lagos has more purchasing power. Why? Because of some advantages. In fact, numerous advantages that Lagos enjoy more than Kano. So let us look at the breakdown. Then we'll come back to show why, unless the monopoly of Lagos is broken, we will continue to have this as the outcome economically for the rest of the country. Now, according to this data that is being circulated by the cable newspaper, as which I would have expected them to show us that it came from the office of either the central bank or from the Federal Land Revenue Service or something. But I'm sure they got it from somewhere, and I will not be surprised that the government gave it to them for a political agenda. Now let us look at what they have here. From the record we have here, they say Lagos contributed 2.75 trillion and received 460 billion, 460.11 billion naira. He contributed 2.75 trillion. I think that's what is making Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, to kick. He wanted Lagos to receive more. Now, you look at Rivers. Rivers contributed 832 billion and received only 186 billion. Oyo contributed 272 billion and received 116 billion. Kano contributed 77 billion and received 117 billion. Delta contributed 73 billion approximately and received 80 billion. Bayelsa contributed 64 billion and received 63 billion. Edo contributed 53 billion and received 72 billion. Anambra contributed 47 billion and received 78 billion. Akwa Ibom contributed 46 billion and received 76 billion. Adamawa contributed 42 billion and received 70 billion. Borno contributed 35 billion and received 76 billion. Niger contributed 34 billion and received 74 billion. Taraba contributed 32 billion and received 63 billion. Kwara contributed 31 billion and received 63 billion. Kaduna contributed 30 billion and receives 88 billion. Ekiti State contributed 29 billion and received 63 billion. Jigawa contributed 28 billion and received 76 billion. Benue contributed 26 billion and received 75 billion. Ogun contributed 26 billion. Take note of Ogun, because Ogun is key to what I'm going to talk about in this video. Ogun, 26 billion and received 72 billion. Sokoto contributed 25 billion and received 71 billion. Gombe contributed 25 billion and received 62 billion. Ebonyi contributed 25 billion and received 61 billion. Kogi contributed 23 billion and received 68 billion. Plateau contributed 22 billion and received 67 billion. Katsina contributed 22 billion and received 85 billion. Yobe contributed 19 billion and received 61 billion. Bauchi contributed 19 billion and received 77 billion. Zamfara contributed 17 billion and received 67 billion. Nasarawa contributed 15 billion and received 58 billion. Enugu contributed 15 billion and received 67 billion. Osun contributed 14 billion and received 68 billion. Ondo contributed 13 billion and received 68 billion. Cross River contributed 9 billion. Cross River is also important in what we're going to talk about. Cross River contributed 9 billion and received 64 billion. KB contributed 8 billion and received 66 billion. Abia contributed 8 billion and received 63 billion. Imo contributed 4 billion and received 70 billion approximately. Now let us situate this data. Let us look at it. As I told you earlier on, VAT is a consumption tax. Therefore, it is influence, is a product of consumption capacity and population. Now, why did Lagos amass over 2 trillion as contribution? Lagos amassed this amount because of population and economic activities happening in Lagos. It is because of those economic activities happening in Lagos that made Lagos to attract such high niche population that has the purchasing power to be able to generate trillions of naira in consumption. Okay? That contribution is largely as a result of economic activities taking place in Lagos. Now, how does this happen? All the ports in Nigeria, virtually all the ports in Nigeria, except the Lagos State, are the only ones working optimally. As I talk to you now, they are planning to even build more ports in Lagos, while the ports, southeast ports, the ports in Calabar, Akwa Ibom, Sapele, Warri, nobody is thinking about them. Now all these ports are being developed largely by the federal government of Nigeria, and all the ports in Lagos were federal government ports. There is no port that is a private port in Lagos. They are all owned by the federal government of Nigeria. Now, all the activities, most of the activities taking place in economic activities taking place are concentrated in Lagos because Nigeria is an import-dependent nation. We import virtually everything. So Lagos is perpetually a hub of activity, deliberately, at the expense of other ports. So when people congregate in Lagos because of that, they are going to make consumption. And those consumption are not mainly by, if you look at their state of origin, if we are to say, okay, whatever you consume in Lagos indicate your state of origin, you discover that most of the people who consume the so-called products in Lagos are not from Lagos State. Those who consume the so-called large consumption in Lagos, they are not from Lagos, they are not Lagosians. The Lagosians' contribution to this VAT generated in Lagos cannot reach up to 30% of the consumption. That is a fact. So federal government is responsible for the inequality. And that is because Lagos is a product of federal government. Now, if we use all our resources to develop Lagos, why should Lagos be allowed to enjoy all the benefits of consumption that occurs in Lagos when Lagos was not a product of the ingenuity of Bola Tinubu, of Sanwo-Olu, or any of them? Because Lagos was a creation of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There is nothing that Tinubu, when he was governor, or Sanwo-Olu had done that could be the reason why Lagos can generate that kind of money, if not for the advantage that Lagos enjoys by accident of geography. And it became the capital of Nigeria, and all our oil money was pumped to develop Lagos. And strangely, all our ports were made to be working, only that of Lagos to be working. So Lagos cannot claim that it's smarter, because if Lagos is smart, why is all the southwest states around Lagos not smart? Why is even Ogun, that is a next door neighbor, despite the economic activities taking place in Ogun was not able to generate much in terms of VAT? Why was Ogun so poor in VAT generation? Because Ogun does not enjoy the kind of activities that takes place in Lagos. Look at what Ogun is generating, only 26 billion. Why is that so? If Lagos is so creative, why can't he pass that creative idea to other southwest states? The truth of the matter remains that Lagos is enjoying monopoly in our port sector, and that has to be decentralized to reduce the population of Lagos. Now, if you look at what Tinubu has done, instead of trying to ensure that Calabar Port, that has better deep sea port than Lagos, is reactivated, what was in the mind of Bola Ahmed Tinubu was to build coastal highway from Lagos to Calabar. Of what purpose will it serve? Calabar is a port city. Lagos is a port city. Why are you connecting two port cities together? Of what basis? If you had said that you want to connect Lagos with Sokoto by a superhighway, it would have made a lot of sense. Because Sokoto is landlocked. It needs to be accessed. So what is the basis of the superhighway? When you could have used that money to develop the Calabar port, so that when Calabar port becomes functional, the Southeast business people, who are the majority of the users of the Lagos port, in terms of import from containers and everything, will now have will be better served by using Calabar port or Avon port. Look at the amount of money they say Calabar is generated, because there is no federal presence in Cross River State. There's no economic activities taking place there. Imagine if the ports, all the ports, Calabar port is functioning. Imagine the Avon port is functioning. It will attract a lot of population. And that population that it will attract will lead to a situation where these people will be consuming things that will reflect in the VAT. But that's not being done. Even in much of the Niger Delta, the oil companies are headquartered in Lagos instead of in the Niger Delta and the other oil producing states. So when people begin to raise shoulders and say, oh, look at Southeast, they didn't generate much. Because there's no opportunities in the Southeast. It was a deliberate federal government marginalization that made it so. Southeast lacks no federal presence. I challenge somebody to list the federal presence in Southeast of any what. If you go to Kaduna, if you see the number of federal establishments in Kaduna alone, go to Zaria, all these places, all kinds of institutes, federal government institutes. So what was the outcome? The outcome is that Lagos is disproportionately favored. So the best thing to do, and unfortunately, the governors from the south, from the southeast, and from the north seem not to grasp it. They are falling into the trap of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and what they want to achieve with this VAT. But at the end of the day, if nothing is done to decentralize the concentration of port in Lagos, the biggest loser will be the rest of the country. And Lagos will be enjoying unmerited achievement, because Lagos was not a creation of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It was not a creation of Sanwo-Olu. Lagos was a creation of the federal government of Nigeria. There is no part of this world where you pump the kind of money that federal government of Nigeria has pumped into Lagos that you will not achieve this kind of result, especially when you do it at the detriment of other ports, at the detriment of other states. So that's an issue. So before people begin to raise shoulders on how much they have contributed, they should know that the truth be told, Lagos is disproportionately favored. In fact, if Lagos is a clean state, if Lagos is run with integrity, the amount of investment of federal government in Lagos to make it what it is, it should be rubbing shoulders. It should be rubbing shoulders with Dubai. And I'm not comparing itself to what Oka is generating, what Anambra State that was created the other day is generating. I'm not comparing itself with what Ugwembe is generating. That's my take. So before you celebrate, note that Lagos is overfavored. That is the same thing that Abuja is now enjoying, what Lagos used to enjoy. What creativity do they have in Abuja? But people are congregating in Abuja because it's the federal capital of Nigeria. And a whole lot of things are come with it. The same thing is with Lagos. Lagos already, if there was no ports in Lagos, if there were no ports in Lagos owned by the federal government of Nigeria, Lagos since Abacha said everybody must come to Abuja, Lagos would have amounted to nothing. It would have reduced. The people going to Lagos would have reduced, but the people still go to Lagos because Lagos remains the commercial capital of Nigeria because of the advantage it has enjoyed over the years. So let nobody raise shoulder in Lagos and think it's because of the creativity of Sanwo-Olu or anything that he has done. Sanwo-Olu was not there in Lagos when Sir Louis Odumegwu became the first president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange in Lagos. So Lagos has come a long way as the entry port to Nigeria. But something can still be done to improve economic activities in other places, increase decentralized ports, so that everybody don't have to go to Lagos to import things into this country. Imagine Calabar, Cross River, generating a paltry 9-point-something billion. What an insult. When Calabar has a lot of potential, if only the ports in Calabar are working. The same thing with Ibom Port. Look at what Akwa Ibom generated. Akwa Ibom could do better if the ports in Akwa Ibom are working. So let us understand this. Even the commercial banks that have their headquarters in Lagos, it is just because of proximity. Banks want to be closer to each other. But that's a story for another day. But the truth of the matter remains is that this data that is circulating, let nobody think that he's smarter than others. That's why you can generate more VAT. Because the issue is that you generate more VAT because of population, you generate more VAT because of purchasing power. And that has nothing to do with the government of Lagos State. It has to do with the port that is in Lagos that attracted a lot of companies and organizations to be in Lagos. That's my take. I don't know what you think about this, but whatever is your position, let's hear from you at the comment section. Thank you for watching this video. And if you are new to my channel, you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell. When you subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, anytime I have a new video, you'll be among the first to know. God bless you.